What's going on, everybody? Jolt here from TheTokenMinorities, and I am back with the Week 12 Team Builder of the GBA Season 8, where your Kansas City Giraffe Chiefs are preparing to take on Cybertron and his Melbourne Rotoms in the final divisional rematch of the regular season, as well as the final battle of the regular season as well. So really looking forward to this match for sure. Cybertron, like I mentioned in my previous matchup with him, is someone I really look up to in the competitive Pokemon community. He's one of the absolute best content creators out there for Pokemon, in my opinion, just because of his humble attitude. He's really knowledgeable as well, especially in doubles, and I feel like the more he plays singles, the more comfortable he's going to get with it for sure. So make sure to go check him out. Going to be linked down in the description below. I'm sure a lot of you are already pretty familiar with him at this point in the GBA, but regardless, make sure to do that. Now, in terms of the relevance of this game, I'm going to be honest with you, there's not a whole lot. I've already clinched, I believe, a share of the divisional championship for the Pony Division in this season of the GBA, so going into this game, I pretty much already have that locked up, but I can gain full possession of the divisional championship for the Pony Division by knocking out one Pokemon in this matchup. So obviously that's like the top goal, or one of my top goals, but the real goal of this game, the real reason why I am tryharding in this game and really want to win this game, is because of momentum going into the playoffs. I want to enter playoffs on a winning streak, especially because I know several of the other playoff teams at this point are going to be doing that as well, entering the playoffs on a winning streak. So I think that's pretty important, and as a result, going to go pretty hard for this matchup and in the prep. In my first matchup against Cybertron, the team itself was a little bit rushed, and this time around I feel like I've really perfected the team that I tried to bring against him last time. It still won last time. It was a really close game though, and I think I'm able to patched up several of the issues with the team last time around that I think will help me out here in this matchup against Cybertron this week. So the goal is to gain some momentum this week with a well-constructed team, and with that said, let's go ahead and dive right on into the matchup. So my opponent Cybertron, just as a reminder, has access to the Raichu, Z Kartana, Heliolisk, Mimikyu, Porygon Z, Kingdra, Hitmontop, Ludicolo, Mega Swampert, Pelipper, and Sliggoo. I think Raichu was the other Z captain on that as well. So he has a pretty threatening offensive rain team. And yeah, it's hard to switch into that team, but fortunately for me, like I mentioned last time around in the team builder, I do have a lot of good natural responses to Rain Sweepers, Mega Venusaur, Celesteela, two prime examples of defensive Pokemon or bulky offensive Pokemon that are able to deal pretty well with Rain Sweepers naturally. So obviously those are going to be on the team here as just ways for me to pivot around his Rain Core, and just in general, he doesn't switch into anything with his draft particularly well. He has a lot of gaping weaknesses, most notably is the Fairy weakness. There's also a pretty big Grass weakness as well. That was really shown as being the case through my Scarf Braylon putting in so much work in the last matchup against him. He only had, I believe, one Grass Resist on the team that he brought, and that was his Kartana. Obviously, Braylon doesn't care too much about Kartana, so Braylon really proved to be a massive threat against this team. I kind of expect him to potentially over-prep for Braylon a little bit this time around, but there's really not a whole lot he can do about it, honestly. He can't run like a Resist Berry just because of Bullet Seed hitting multiple times. Plus, he doesn't really have too many Grass weaknesses. Yeah, I think his only Grass weakness is the Mega Swampert, and that's quad weak for 1, and 2 can't even run a Rendo Berry if it wanted to, so he can't really deal too well defensively with Bullet Seed spam once again. Plus, if he wants to run a Chople Berry on the Kartana to try to lure in the Breloom, that's perfectly fine with me. That means I don't have to deal with the Z-move Kartana, so that's a trade I'm definitely willing to take. But once again, Breloom should come in this match, and it's going to come in this match. I will be changing up the set a little bit here, though, just to, mix it up. Don't make myself too predictable here in this rematch. Plus, I think I have a set that's actually a little bit better than a Choice Scarfed Breloom against Cybertron's Giraffe. So I'll show you that here in just a second. Once again, he doesn't really have Fairy Resist. His only Fairy Resist is a Kartana, and let's be real, that's not a Fairy Resist, especially because Gardevoir is a special attacker. Kartana has Paper Thin, special defense. Some Moonblast spam is really strong against him, coupling that with the fact that I can trace the Swift Swim and slap on a Choice Scarf, outspeed his entire team under the rain. there's just not a whole lot that he can do about a Gardevoir after I'm able to whittle down his Ludicolo that is like 120% going to be Assault Vest, because he's brought Assault Vest Ludicolo like every single week this season. So definitely expecting that to be one of his pivots into the Gardevoir. So one of the key aspects of my game plan in this game is going to be to weaken down that AV Ludicolo, as that is his only true switch into so many members of my team, and being able to weaken that thing down is just really good for the Gardevoir in the late game. So yeah, he really doesn't have great switch-ins on his team, but he has a lot of good offense, and I think last time around Cybertron did a good job of pressuring me with several of his offensive members, most notably the Kingdra. I think that my Kingdra responses were a little bit lacking, mainly because I was put in a position where I had to lose my Gardevoir in the mid-game, allowing his Kingdra to be a much bigger offensive threat against my offensive threat in the Scarf Breloom, as Kingdra was going to be able to survive any hit from Breloom. That's not necessarily the case in the face of a Gardevoir, so I really am going for that Gardevoir win this time around. I think that's a much safer win condition, especially after I've already revealed a Scarf Breloom in the past. But yeah, he has a lot of those offensive threats against me. I do have a good several good defensive options against him as well, like I already mentioned, the Mega Venusaur, the Celesteela. Seismitoad, once again, is solid as a defensive Pokemon against him. It's also my best Stealth Rocker against him by far, and last time around, that is one thing that I also don't feel like I did to the best of my ability, and that was getting up the Stealth Rocks early in the game, since he doesn't really have removal outside of potentially on Pelipper, which went down on turn 1 last game if you recall, and potentially on the Kartana as well. He will not bring Defog on Kartana against me. He can't afford the move slot. He needs SD, he needs Leaf Blade, he needs Sacred Sword for sure, and then it comes down to if he wants to run Sub SD once again, or if he wants to run Psycho Cut for my Mega Venusaur. Those are his options. He cannot afford to run Defog, so if he brings Defog, it's going to be on the Pelipper, and I think I have several options on this team here to maybe lure in the Pelipper and get rid of it, or just pressure it enough to the point where it can never actually attack against me, as I do have a lot of ways that can really keep that pressure on the Pelipper, especially if I have Stealth Rocks on the field, as with Rocks on the field, it ensures a lot of key KOs from my team here. So let's just go ahead and jump right on into the team that I'm going to bring for this week. So we're starting it off with the Gardevoir. This is a very similar set to last time, with a couple key exceptions. One being the fact that I'm running Hidden Power Fighting instead of Focus Blast. I was scared to click Focus Blast last time around. I'm going to admit that. If I hit the Focus Blast against the Kartana and then proceeded to hit several more Focus Blasts in a row, Gardevoir potentially could have swept early in the game, giving me a 5-0 victory, but I was not about to risk a Focus Blast in the face of a Kartana, particularly one that's potentially a big threat against my team. So I want to have HP Fighting for that purpose specifically. HP Fighting does knock out Kartana in one hit unless he is a Assault Vest variant, so should be able to do the trick in that regard. I'm also running additional special attack investment just in case I want to lock into Moonblast instead. If I just have a little bit of chip damage on Kartana, the Moonblast has a chance to knock it out actually, which is pretty crazy. Last time around, I think I was running about 200 EVs in special attack, and it gave him a chance to get up a free substitute in my face, which was pretty unfortunate. It caused me to lose a Pokemon, specifically my Gardevoir, which could have otherwise won the entire game for me in the late game, so having that extra investment really helps out in that regard, plus just being even more of a massive threat against the team. I can even run the Modest Nature, as I only really need to outspeed the potential Choice Scarf Pelipper, which I still think is a possible bring against me. He didn't bring it last time around. He brought his like typical Damp Rock Pelipper set last time around, but I don't know, he could go Choice Scarf. He's always, I think he's brought Damp Rock all season long, if I recall. Maybe Choice Scarf once all season, so, but you know, for him, he doesn't really have, he doesn't have any chance at playoffs at this point, so he might just get wild and bring a bunch of stuff he hasn't brought all season. I might even see some memes, I don't know, but I'm expecting to see the Damp Rock Pelipper, but even if he is Choice Scarf, this would be able to outspeed that, so that's pretty good. Moonblast, Energy Ball, Psyshock, just really good coverage against this team, but let's be honest, I'm pretty much only clicking Moonblast against his team throughout the game. Now, next up is the Breloom. So this was my Choice Scarf Wonder last time around, picking up several kills, I think like 4 or 5 kills in the last matchup against him, but this time around we are running Focus Sash, and that is because Cybertron has exactly one Stealth Rocker on his team. Last time around he opted to not even bring that Pokemon, and even if he does bring it, I don't expect him to actually put Stealth Rock on it either, just because my Mons that I brought last time around aren't particularly weak to Stealth Rock, and even if he was looking at my entire roster, I don't think he really feels the need to bring Stealth Rock against my team, especially on a Mega Swampert that's going to want Power Up Punch, it's going to want Earthquake, it's going to want Waterfall, and then it has that one slot left. I don't really know what he'll do with that. It might even be sub, it might be manual Rain Dance. I just don't think Stealth Rock is going to go in that slot. Coming from Cybertron, maybe coming against someone with maybe a little bit more experience in singles. Maybe they would value Stealth Rock more in this particular matchup, but just looking at Cybertron's team, I don't really think, looking at his draft and looking at his tendencies throughout the season, I really don't think he's going to value Stealth Rock much, which makes a mid-game Focus Sash user really, really good against him. This might even be my lead. Depending on what he brings, this very well might be my lead. I'm not really sure yet at this point, but regardless of which role it is in, this is an absolute monster against him. If he brings up Helliper, max speed, non-choice Scarf, this still outspeeds it. Thunder Punch might be able to knock him out depending on his defensive investment. If he's like full Fizz Def, Thunder Punch does not knock him out, but I can always take any one hit with my Sash, and if I can get Pelipper down into range of rocks, that means he'll never get Rain up again later in the game. And even if he keeps Pelipper around, like, Rain is good for Gardevoir, okay? If there's Rain up, my Gardevoir outspeeds his Scarfers if I traced Swift Swim. So it's not really a bad thing if he's able to keep Pelipper around for a little bit longer, especially because I feel like my team in general is pretty good at just pressuring it and keeping it weakened. It doesn't really wall anything is what I'm trying to say, so I don't really care if Pelipper sticks around. In fact, I'd actually be pretty okay with it if it did. So yeah, just overall really solid. Same exact moveset as last time. This checks his best Scarfers against me, being stuff like the Heliolisk, the Kartana, the Porygon Z. This checks all those with Mach Punch, so Mach Punch spam is really good against him, and of course I've already mentioned how good Grass spam is against him as well. Now next up is the Hydreigon. This set has changed a little bit in terms of the EV spread. The moveset has not changed at all. Still running Dark Pulse, Draco, Flash Cannon, U-Turn. It's designed to be a pivot into the Ludicolo if my Mega Venusaur is not Mega Evolved yet. It's also a pivot into the Heliolisk if it has to be, pivot into Raichu if he brings that, etc. This also, I don't think I mentioned this yet, is designed to be my best response to Mimikyu. Not a switch in to Mimikyu, obviously, but what I can do with this is either if the Mimikyu has its disguise broken and maybe it's whittled itself a little bit with the Life Orb that Cybertron likes to bring on, like, all of his mons. Like, all of his offensive sweepers seem to run Life Orb this season, so expecting that to be the case once again, potentially. Mimikyu will wear itself down, and if I can break the disguise with something else on my team, I might be able to switch this in pretty freely, live even a +6 Shadow Sneak very easily. I think it does like less than half of these +6 and Life Orb boosted, and then I can knock him out with a Flash Cannon at that point. So this is a good response in that regard. If he doesn't have his disguise broken, I can U-turn on it into one of my fat mons like a Mega Venusaur or a Celesteela that can chew up the hit pretty well as well, and then come back in later, knock him out with a Flash Cannon, or just let Mega Venusaur or Celesteela finish the job at that point. So yeah, Dark Pulse is also very spammable against his team. I think his only Dark Resist is a Hitmontop, and Hitmontop is pretty trash, especially when I have a Mega Venusaur and a Celesteela and like Gardevoir and all these things that can really give Hitmontop a hard time. Yeah, I just feel like this is a really good Pokemon against him. I gave him a hard time last time around, but I wanted that extra bulk this time around to be able to take hits a little bit better from the Ludicolo specifically, as due to, I believe, a critical hit that he got in the first time matchup against him, he was able to crit my Hydreigon into range of the Mimikyu's +2 Shadow Sneak, and that made playing around the Mimikyu a lot more challenging, so having that extra bulk could really help in that regard, especially if he doesn't get the crit. So yeah, that's basically my offensive core in this game, even though this is kind of like a defensive pivot. But regardless, now we have the Mega Venusaur. This has changed a little bit as well. Last time around I was running Knockoff instead of Sludge Bomb. I think it's really important to have Giga Drain and Sludge Bomb. I think I also had Synthesis last time around as well instead of Leech Seed, but I'm running double Leech Seed in this matchup, and you'll see the other one here in just a second. So this is the exact same EV spread as last time. Investment allows me to knock out Kartana with HP Fire. Sludge Bomb does an absolute ton to pretty much anything on his team. He doesn't switch into it well at all. The only real switch into this, I believe, is the either the Kartana, which catches an HP Fire, or he could switch in I guess, especially defensive Pelipper. There's not a whole lot. Let me pull up his team real quick to see if there's anything else he could really switch into this. The answer is no. No, he doesn't switch into this at all. Sludge Bomb also does a fair amount more to the Mimikyu than Giga Drain was, and I think that's something that could be really handy. Having the chance of a poison as well, potentially giving me a way to play around that Destiny Bond option that he brought last time as well. Leech Seed is another way to help play around that too. But just in general, I feel like Leech Seed is more reliable reliable recovery against the rain, especially because I'm not really trying to lure the Pelipper in this matchup. I think he's going to be able to maintain rain in the game more so than he was last time around, so I didn't really want to lean on Synthesis for my recovery. I prefer to lean on Leech Seed and Giga Drain for my recovery instead. So as far as the moveset, I think it's pretty self-explanatory at this point. Just a really good Pokemon against this team. Very tough for him to break down, and I think it's going to be able to sustain itself well enough with the combination of Leech Seed and Giga Drain. Now next up is the Celesteela. This set has changed slightly since last time. Last time I ran Protect Leech Seed instead of Giga Drain because I did not bring any grass coverage on this, or I think on a few of my mons last time. I think there's a chance that he brings the Mega Swampert just to mix it up and see if it helps him out a little bit. So I wanted to have good ways to deal with Mega Swampert on most of my team. Giga Drain is one way to do that here with the Celesteela. It doesn't knock out Mega Swampert by any means, but it does a ton of damage to it, and I recover a lot of health back at the same time. Once again, having Leech Seed on this set with the Mega Venusaur, so I'm running double Leech Seed, which is, I think, pretty good, especially in combination with my Fat Hydreigon that is naturally bulky with the HP investment that I have, and then also the Seismitoad that I'll show you here in just a little bit. So I really think that patches up my defensive cores, having the double Leech Seed. Makes my defenses in general a lot more solid against him than it was in the first matchup. So yeah, Air Slash is just really good and spammable against him. He has two switch-ins to Air Slash, those being the Heliolisk and the Raichu, and neither of which really want to take a Heavy Slam despite being resisted. They are both very light, and Celesteela is quite heavy, so they don't really appreciate that at all. Physical defense investment, special defense investment allow me to take a wide variety of hits from his team. Celesteela is an absolute monster. Now finally we have the Seismitoad. This set has changed a little bit as well. Last time around I ran Grass Knot on this for the Mega Swampert. This time I am running Knockoff instead, specifically for the Sliggoo, which I don't know, he might bring it. He got wrecked by Breloom's Bullet Seed last time around, so I would not be surprised to see him bring a Grass immunity in this game, especially because it's the last week of the season. Cybertron has nothing to lose. He's already out of playoffs. He might as well bring his other mons that he hasn't brought yet, right? So there's a good chance we could see Hitmontop, Sliggoo, and Raichu in this game, honestly. And if he does bring Sliggoo, I want to make sure I have a good way to take advantage of it, and Knockoff is just the right way to do that. If I can get a Knockoff off against the Sliggoo, it's very easily checked by stuff like my Mega Venusaur, by stuff like my Gardevoir, by my Hydreigon, my Breloom's even packing the Superpower, which could hit it really, really hard if it's not like a Curse variant. So, yeah, so Knockoff's really good for that. Hidden Power Electric for the Pelipper specifically, since this is my Stealth Rocker, I want to pressure his best Defogger as well as possible, and Hidden Power Electric was the way to do that. And then I have Earth Power because it does a lot to Kartana, basically just ensures Kartana is not a 100% free switch into my Seismitoad this time around. Rindoberry specifically for that Kingdra. So last time around I made kind of a weird play, not a weird play, I made a good play in my opinion, and that was scouting for Hidden Power Grass from the Kingdra, and it turned out he didn't have it, and the sequence of plays cost me a Pokemon in the end, so I wanted to be set up to the point where I don't have to make that type of scout play, and instead I can just get up my Stealth Rock immediately, okay? Because Stealth Rocks are more important in this matchup than Seismitoad's health. Can't stress that enough. I did not get rocks up last time around, and it really made finishing out the late game difficult. I actually had to bring the game down to a potential Draco Meteor miss because I wasn't able to get Stealth Rocks onto the field. So Stealth Rocks are really important in this game. I'm willing to risk a lot of Seismitoad's health to make sure I get them up. But yeah, the Rindoberry just helps ensure that I'm going to be able to do that. So that is the team for this week. It's basically just an improved version of what I brought in week 5 against Cybertron, our first matchup this season, because last time around the team was a little bit rushed. I'll be the first one to admit that. It was definitely a rushed team. This time around I think I patched those holes that might have held the team back a little bit last time around, and we're going to try to gain some momentum here moving into the playoffs round 1, which will be, I think it's a week from this week. I'm not exactly sure what the schedule is. It might even be in 2 weeks. There's some talk about that right now. Just stay tuned. I'm sure we'll let you know on the GBA Twitter or on the GBA YouTube, or in some way we will let you know whenever the playoff matches are coming for you. But regardless, looking for some momentum this week. Hope you guys are looking forward to the match. I know I am for sure, and I will see you all tomorrow. Peace. Actually, it might be later today, depending on when this goes up. We'll see. I'll see you for the battle. Peace.